No, but like I'm really excited because I found my Aztec coin from Pirates of the Caribbean.
I was gonna say, is that a doubloon?
Yeah, it's the Aztec coin, the one that they all stole, and then everybody got cursed, but Bootstrap lost his, and then Elizabeth Swann got it.
I may get crucified, but I've never seen the movies.
Okay, that's somehow worse than me only seeing the odd-numbered Fast and Furious movies, and like, there's no excuse because Pirates is objectively better.
It's the superior franchise. So not even seeing like the first one, which is like culturally significant, is
yeah, that's
you might have to go in timeout actually for like 5 minutes. So welcome to the AHL pre-show. Yeah, we're putting Sam out into that's just a party foul, red card right off the bat.
Sam's in the shades.
I'm Andrew. That's Dee, and in the brig right now is Samantha Wismer. We'll get back to her in a minute. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry.
I didn't do anything. I just said I didn't watch a movie, and all of a sudden I'm in timeout.
It's 3 culturally significant movies that actually probably changed the tides. I'm being so dramatic right now of cinema for generations, and then 2 kind of really bad copies of those movies.
We don't really talk about what happened after the third one.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but masterpieces.
I mean, I have Disney Plus, so
they're all on there. Mm-hmm.
So you really have no excuse to.
Okay, so is that my homework assignment for the week, guys?
Yes, we're gonna. The cold open for next week is gonna be just a hardcore Pirates trivia right off the bat.
I got this.
Okay.
Anyway, for our audience out there, welcome back to the AHL pre-show. We have one more weekend of AHL hockey going on, and well, should rephrase that: regular season AHL hockey going on. Everything's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of tied knots out there if we're going to just keep up with the Pirates theme, but there's still a lot to be playing for, and we're going to go over every little bit of it. So, Sam, we're going to start with you and your redemption arc to talk about what's going on in the Atlantic, and yeah, I'm gonna kick this ship right off to you.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's not much going on in the Atlantic, Hershey is Hershey. Providence, I guess they're just YOLOing along. Wilkes-Barre clinched, and their goalie is stealing awards left and right, which he should because he's amazing. Hartford, Charlotte, they're doing them, and Lehigh's got one magic number left, so they're going to be heading to playoffs, which is nice because they missed, I want to say 2 or 3 seasons of playoffs. So to have them 2 years in a row, that's kind of nice. But if they go against Wilkes-Barre, I am kind of scared for them.
Probably not going to end up having a home playoff game there, but hey, you never know. You never know. And I know the magic number is 1, but I'm still not like, I know there needs to be a whole lot of help for Springfield to even think about sneaking in. But I can totally see Lehigh Valley just fumble the bag at the goal line, which would be hilarious. Also kind of sad, but hilarious.
Because this weekend they face Bridgeport, they face Wilkes-Barre, and then Charlotte on Sunday. So
okay, so they're in.
Yeah, right. So I looked at the schedule. I'm like, oh, that's set up. No,
that's kidding. Bridgeport without Ruslan Iskakov. Yeah, they're in. Okay, never mind. I didn't know that the artists formerly known as the Sound Tigers were on the schedule, and
the artists formerly. Oh my god.
Well, it's a better name than the Islanders. Bridgeport's not even on an island.
It's not. You can drive right through it, driving through Connecticut.
That's terrible. That's a terrible name.
But listen, the Sound Tigers were like kind of named after P.T. Barnum, and he was a horrible person.
Look, the Gordon's Fisherman was probably not the most upstanding citizen, but he still made a rocking logo.
The Gordon's Fisherman was not okay with a bunch of people and also whales being like horribly murdered in a building fire that he built with false exits to lead people around a museum.
Okay, so he was a terrible person.
Yo, but his fish sticks are amazing.
No, that's okay. I don't know what's happening.
What was that?
No, I don't know. My phone and iPad have been doing this thing where if I like give a thumbs up for too long, it'll put a thumbs up. And if I give like something that looks like a thumbs down for too long, it'll give a thumbs down.
My computer's not doing it.
I don't know like what's going on. iOS 17, y'all.
I'm terrified. Here, I thought that you had this terrible relationship with technology, and now you're just pulling out these new features that I didn't even know were a thing.
Yeah, it's not great because like I usually like point and I count like this, and they count it as like thumbs up sometimes, and it's not great.
Well, I mean, you got that German number way of counting, right? When you got the Dreigläser like that. Yeah. Exactly. So I can understand the confusion, but I was not ready for that, and so
it was actually though. That's exactly how I feel about P.T. Barnum. He's awful.
It fits. As long as it fits the theme, then we're all right here. Let's keep with the Atlantic and some, I guess, fish sticks and everything. Like seating wise, as we come up here, everything seems to be kind of, barring anything wild going on. I mean, you got Wilkes-Barre and Charlotte that are only separated by 2 points. So I guess, Sam, you feel confident that the Pens are going to be stepping in there with home ice? And
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think so. Although it would just, if it does come down to Lehigh and Wilkes matching up against each other, that will be the second time in a row, or second year in a row, that Lehigh has lost home ice advantage, and they lose it for the entire series. They don't just lose it for whatever. But Lehigh fans can't complain because it's only an hour drive. So you want to support your team, get up to Wilkes-Barre.
That's one of the very convenient things about the Atlantic, is everything is very kind of tight knit there, except Charlotte. But everyone else seems like they're.
I'm sorry, it's an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh boy, I mean, and in rush hour traffic, it's probably more like 120. So you're really misleading the people out here.
I'm sorry. I live in the Allentown area, the Lehigh Valley area, and yeah, it's like an hour and 10, and then with rush hour traffic, it's an hour and 15. But I use my lunch break to drive up there. So
there you go.
Hey, either way, we're gonna get sued for misinformation. So
yeah. And we already threw you in the break once for like crimes against culture. So now you're going to get thrown in the break for actual crime. So
okay,
man, it's actually
it's just how it is. I don't make the rules. This is just how it ends up.
Yeah, if the Hague calls me later, just know I'm forwarding them your phone number.
Crimes against culture. But other than that, I mean, it's all just kind of the waiting game here in the Atlantic. If we look up, kind of take I know, we're looking ahead in the week, but if we look ahead the next week after, Sam, you already kind of laid in Wilkes-Barre and Lehigh. I think we know kind of what would happen there. What's the feeling that you got, though, for Charlotte and Hartford?
Hartford's been kind of on a downward spiral-ish type thing going on there. I don't know. I gotta say Charlotte. They've been kind of a rock all year with their team. They've been a solid unit. So yeah, and then I mean Hershey and Providence aren't in the first round, so
yeah, they'll be taking a little break for the first couple of days, but that's kind of the perks that you get finishing at the top of your division. Chicago wouldn't know a whole lot about that, but we'll get to the Central later. First, I want to talk about the North and all the chaos that's going on there. And we haven't had D kind of. It's been a rough couple of times with the attack for you girls, so I want to give her a chance to shine.
Hi, I'm dressed like
Hey.
I'm dressed like Mr. Smee today from Peter Pan. I'm dressed like Mr. Smee. We went real nautical today because I found my Aztec coin, from Pirates of the Caribbean. Sam can't relate. The North is the tightest race in the entire league. It's ridiculous. It's at this point, right? Everything looks like it's gonna be Belleville making it into the playoffs because you've got Utica, not Utica, but also maybe Utica. It would take a miracle, but Belleville and Laval have been battling out for that final playoff spot in the North. Mathematically, Laval could win the 2 games Friday and Saturday and tie the Baby Sens for points, but Belleville has the first tiebreaker, and that's going to be games 1, in regulation. The Rocket would come up 1 game short. So,
is that real?
Maybe. At least they have games 1, based on the standings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Laval has 33 wins. Belleville has 36. So even if they get 2, that's 35.
Right.
36.
But if isn't the tiebreaker regulation wins? Because if that was the case, Laval would have a nice big old E right next to it, right? Because if they win those 2 games, they'd still be tied, and it's it wouldn't matter because you still lose. That's how I'm interpreting it, at least.
I don't know.
If I can interject something about Utica, they've been sending a few of their guys back to Adirondack for that playoff run. So I don't think that they're expecting a big miracle.
Well, and they have 3 games coming up this weekend, so they have the most, I guess, to gain. But they're also playing Syracuse twice in a home and home, and then they're finishing up at home against Rochester. Both of those teams are currently tied for first in the North, so they have quite a lot to play for. And I kind of feel like Utica is just going to kind of get smacked around a little bit by them because it's okay, tuning in for playoffs, really need these points. Hello, Comets. Goodbye, Comets. Bam.
Yeah, that's it's maybe Utica, but probably not Utica, just because Rochester and Syracuse are playing for seeding.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, they're playing for seeding. So since they have basically identical records, at this point they're playing for table points.
Yeah, and if Belleville wins one of those games, then sayonara.
It's Belleville. Yeah, Belleville. I don't know how many times I have to say that the Belleville Senators are the biggest thorn in the Laval Rockets side. They're the one team that they can't find a way to just beat into submission.
Do they have a full roster? Because I remember probably, I want to say November, maybe mid-December, I saw them play in Wilkes-Barre, and they only had 18 guys on their roster.
With the Rocket, it truly doesn't matter.
No, I was talking about Belleville.
No, that's what I'm saying. Against the Rocket, it truly doesn't matter. I've said so many times, they came into the league at the same time. There's been a race between the two to just kind of prove which one is better, and Belleville is winning that. The Rocket have made the playoffs more, but that doesn't make them the better team because the Rocket keep accidentally finding themselves in the playoffs. They keep accidentally pummeling their way into the postseason, and then they're exhausted by the time they get there because they're bruising their way to the postseason, and they can't sustain. Well, they went to the conference final against Springfield a couple years ago, but again, against a team that can rely on some skill in the regular season and then bring out all the brutality in the postseason, like Springfield. The Rocket didn't stand a chance because they had pummeled their way through Syracuse and Rochester as well.
I did just notice that Boko Mama's making his way back down to Belleville, so that's going to spice those matchups up a little bit.
Yeah, well, the Rocket also got a whole bunch of help. Joshua Waugh is back in Laval, so is Justin Bear and Logan Mayo and Jaden Struble. But the Rocket have Florian Jackeye, which is fun. That is the deputy. His older brother Arbor is a stalwart for the Canadians and also was a bruiser for the Rocket. Sean Farrell and David Reinbacher also with the Rocket right now. Whether or not that means anything going into the final 2 games of the season, maybe making a statement, like, hey, we're here to stay. We are the Laval Rocket, and even if we don't make the postseason every year, like, you still have to worry about us. We're gonna like ruin your seeding. We're gonna be a speed bump on the way. It remains to be seen. But they are getting some reinforcements, which should make it a very interesting home and home for that final playoff spot.
And I don't believe they have anybody back from Troyes, like any of their AHL contracted guys.
I think Strauss-Mann might be.
Oh, yep.
Back up from TR. Mr.
Goal scorer.
Technicality himself.
Let's not forget the North here as well. I mean, the Cleveland Monsters have been like, they were at the top for however long. It felt like all season. And then Columbus is like, yeah, we'll be having him. We'll be having him. We'll be having him. We'll be having him. And they naturally kind of, slipped up there when you take Jack Reeves and you get Trey Fix Wolanski. Okay, I say that 5 times fast. Mikhail Putia and David Juracek, Jake Richardson. It seemed like they were never able to really kind of be healthy for that second half of the season. And, Columbus is doing its annual we don't make the playoffs thing. So now everyone's coming back to Cleveland. They got a big matchup coming on here Friday night against the Rochester Americans. If they can get some help from Utica, that's going to make their weekend series with the Marlies very interesting. They are not out of it for that number 1 spot, which just makes everything so chaotic in the North, which is why I'm like,
it's much.
It's so much. There's so much going on. I love it. Anything's possible, and we're in the final weekend, and it's like there's all these teams. Every team in that division is still alive.
Yeah, well, anything's possible. We watched the Cleveland Monsters claw their way from the brink of defeat, like depleted roster, literally no hope looming on the horizon, and then like one ray of sunlight. They got it together. The culture's right with that team. They clawed their way back up to 3rd against the Marlies, who have just been having an incredible season. And Toronto's been struggling in the past few years, but finally all of their draft picks and prospects are coming to fruition a little bit. Like, I know the Toronto Maple Leafs may not have enough money to actually sign any depth players, but the Toronto Marlies are rolling on their depth. So
yeah, the Marlies would really be in trouble if their numbers also counted towards Toronto's salary cap.
Just speaking on injuries, you got to keep an eye on some teams that actually do have injuries. I know some teams do have injuries lists that are a mile long, and one of them is including Wilkes-Barre, but they've been rocking it without those guys. So, and then they also got reinforcements back today, and one of those reinforcements is on waivers. I'm going to be crossing my fingers and my toes and everything else for the next how many ever hours.
Yeah, I was really worried when Austin Czarnik got placed on waivers yesterday, and every Islander fan in existence is like, bring him home. And I'm like, maybe not. Maybe just let him go to Grand Rapids and kind of do his thing. Like, I don't.
Let's go win a championship somewhere. Jesus.
Right. What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do on the island? Come on. So today, Austin Czarnik cleared, so he's gonna be joining the Griffins. I'll get to that later. But if you guys want, unless you guys want to hear me talk about the Central, all the great stuff that's going on over there, it's actually.
North real quick. Yeah, we can wrap up the North real quick and then move on to the Central because the Pacific's the other one where we have a lot to say about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the North, like I said, I mean, like statistically, it has to be Belleville, right? But that's not to say that everybody else's seeding is not gonna be like super cattywampus. That's a Southern word for you. After
my Midwestern brain couldn't really comprehend what you just said right there.
Yeah, so right now you've got like Laval and Utica kind of playing spoiler for seeding. And then I have a hot take we'll circle back to later regarding the Laval Rocket. But the Central Division.
Yeah, it's so much fun. It's not. It's really, really kind of boring. Everything has been decided seemingly for months. I already went on my spiel about the Chicago Wolves. You can go check that out at the Calder Times. I did a whole post-mortem exam on them. I felt like oh my God, I'm forgetting the name. What's the exam? The
medical examiner?
There's an actual like the coroner. That's what
medical examiner.
The coroner sounds better. And
when you came out with the post-mortem term against your team, I used it for my ECHL team, and it's accurate. It's accurate.
See, I'm starting a cultural revolution here about dead bodies. Anyway.
Am I out of timeout?
Of the Caribbean because Sam.
Speaking of skeletons on pirate ships, the Milwaukee Admirals are absolutely. Yeah, that was actually. I'm pretty proud of myself on that one. They've had this division wrapped up ever since they went on that whole 19-game winning streak thing. They're kind of going through the motions this weekend, but they got they're going up against Rockford and Grand Rapids, who are going on a collision course with one another from the first round in that 2-3 spot in division. Grand Rapids currently ahead by 3 points. They also have another game against Iowa. Rockford's got 2 against Chicago, so you can pretty much chalk them up for 4 points. It's going to be tight right down to Sunday night to see who gets that home ice advantage, which would be huge because Grand Rapids at home has been lights out. On the road, they've been a little shaky, but it's gonna be an intense series looking ahead either way. Then you got a really interesting setup going on in Manitoba. You got the Stars going to the Great White North to take on the Moose. After they have their 2-game set this weekend, they're going to be playing 3 more games at least or at most. And it's you feel like there's going to be a lot of playoff energy. You got to set the tone here, and get away with, hopefully no injuries to anyone. Jesus, I really hope I didn't just jinx anyone there. But either way, these 2 teams are going to be kind of, okay, we know we're already locked in here. We know Texas is going to be taking home ice, but give them something to think about, So I think there's going to be some heavy hits. There's going to be some big goals. There's going to be a lot of trash talking. It's probably my favorite part about this whole thing. And it's a good little preview for what's going to be coming up here. And I mean, I guess I could talk about Chicago's schedule, Rockford, Iowa, Rockford again. Anyway, you can go read my article on the Calder Times all about what Chicago did wrong. Spoiler alert. It was everything. And everything's kind of all set in the Central. It's just a matter of, kind of going through the motions this weekend. Not really going through the motions, but, it's all setting up for what I think is going to be a very heavy postseason. The big contenders here in division, they're not ones to shy away from one another. There's some heat, there's some hate, and I'm all about it.
Question: can I ask how Adam Shield did this year? Only because, yeah.
It's through no fault of his own. I think Adam Schill, honestly, aside from Rocco Grimaldi, was probably the most important player for the Wolves because Keith Kincaid was not really as advertised early in the season. Second half, I know, right?
I wonder who could have mentioned that.
Wendell Young probably should have listened to me on that one.
Aren't you blocked by Kincaid?
I sure am. That's what happens when you block me on Twitter. You're bad at hockey.
You ended up blocking a lot of Wolves fans this year for expressing.
Okay. I am blocked by the great Jacob Voracek.
You guys do, man. I'm always like so afraid of making people mad on social media, and you guys are just like,
I didn't even say anything to him or like about him. All I said is that the Cam Atkinson trade was a good one. Boom. Next thing I know, I'm blocked. I'm like, cool, I joined the club.
Well, you probably deserve that one too. So
probably
get blocked by Keith Kincaid.
A lot of Chicago fans were blocked by Keith Kincaid this year. Not as many pucks, but more Twitter users for sure.
Yeah, because he name searches Keith. Unblock me. I would like to chat.
Anyway, Adam Schill actually had a goals against average under 3, which is pretty remarkable, all things considered, and a save percentage over 90. So it was no fault of his that the Wolves were really as terrible as they were. He did his best. I honestly hope that he gets, an actual legitimate chance at an NHL contract, because every time I've seen him, whether it was with Texas, Idaho, Chicago, I was always like, hey, this is a pretty good goalie. He did not have a whole lot of help defensively, offensively, in the neutral zone, anywhere really kind of to help him out. And it was pretty tough. So that's just about the last we probably will talk about the Chicago Wolves, because we're going playoffs and looking ahead. So what about the Pacific? What's going on the West Coast?
Lots of teams in the playoffs in the West Coast.
Coachella Valley.
Yeah, running away with the division. Shout out to the Barracuda and the Gulls for managing to be tied for last.
Oh,
absolutely love that for them. Absolutely go off, Kings.
I love the sense of community, because I feel like they've both taken their strays about being like, you're terrible. Now they're like, you know what? What if we were terrible together? We are terrible.
Henderson, shockingly, coming back to reality after being pretty solid for its first handful of years in the league. It seems like they're leveling out, similar to the way Vegas is kind of leveling out, where they're actually having to fight for success, which is fun.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Henderson, there is no LTIR to lean on, so they're just going to have to sit and watch along with the rest of us. But I think there's one really intriguing storyline out there in the Pacific that's going to carry over throughout the rest of this playoffs.
Meet.
What?
The Roadrunners. Meet.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. I just, again, some of these things that are just coming to your screen are really just kind of startling me, and I'm not quite sure how to respond to them. Anyway, it's got to be Tucson, right? And I feel like the whole world's going to be at their back, because with all the drama going on in Arizona, and we talked about this a little bit last week, but we need to kind of keep bringing it up because it keeps developing further and further. Everything is kind of officially like, okay, the Coyotes are going to Utah, and just the worst kind of way of dangling it around, like Tucson might be coming into Mullet Arena next year, just so you can watch all the young prospects that are never going to play for this team here in Arizona, which is just terrible. But I feel like Tucson caught some strays for no reason in this whole thing. I mean, I guess they are still owned by that same group in Arizona, which is just terrible, unfortunate luck. But these Roadrunners have been around since 2016. Won the Pacific a couple of times. They've started to really get a good solid fan base going on there in the desert. And now they're just getting yoinked out of their home in Tucson. Allegedly. I don't think anyone really knows what's going on with the Roadrunners just yet, but it's just fascinating to follow and how these players are going to react to, well, we don't know where we're going to be next year. So are they going to send this one out with a bang, or is there just going to be so much going on behind the scenes that they can't focus on playing hockey? So far, it looks like that they seem like they're doing okay for themselves. They keep winning games. They keep, piling the goals up. And especially, you're going to probably getting Josh Doan in there to light the lamp for the hometown fans one more time. Why not make a run out of it,
Well, I think regardless of what Tucson's fate is, if you're the leadership and you're the coaching staff, management staff for the Roadrunners, you shield your players. Theoretically, Arizona leaving Scottsdale or Glendale or wherever it is they are, Riverdale, leaving the Dale and moving to Utah, right? Realistically right now does not affect the Roadrunners, right? And if your management, if your coaching staff, you're protecting, you're shielding your players from that. If you're the leadership core of the Roadrunners, you're protecting your team from that, because it's not about that. That's the Coyotes. That's not us. We're not the Coyotes. So you shield them from that. You play hockey and pretend it doesn't exist.
I guess that's the best way, is to kind of keep it out of sight, out of mind. It's a distraction. We're going to leave that behind us, and it's all good vibes from here on.
Like when Gordon Bombay set his cardboard cutout on fire in D2 The Mighty Ducks.
I forgot about that.
This is a distraction, and then this is a distraction on fire in a barrel. The Arizona, realistically, right? The Arizona move does not affect Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a place to play. Currently they still have the same ownership. It's yet to be determined if they're selling the entire organization. We haven't heard anything about whether they're selling the entire organization. That feels like the kind of thing that somebody would leak to the press. So
figure it out.
Yeah, you play under the assumption that you're just kind of still playing hockey.
What about this trade agreement? Tucson gets to stay, but they're still owned by Morello. What that would be, I don't know. I think I'd rather move the Roadrunners. That guy needs to keep his hands out of hockey altogether after that whole fiasco with the Coyotes.
I mean, I completely agree, but that's operating under the same assumption that they're more than just affiliates, and they are in fact the same. They sold the company and not just one part of an affiliation. Right. And we don't know that. We don't have those details. If we had those details, what's his name? Ryan Smith?
Ryan Smith, yeah.
Right. He is super vocal about everything. We would have heard about it. We would have heard from the insiders. We would have heard, something, at least at this point, about whether or not the Roadrunners were also moving with the Coyotes. I think that's the kind of mentality the Roadrunners take into this. And that's the assumption that they're operating under.
Well, I hope they can find a way to stay in Tucson. Again, this is all just kind of, it's a very uncertain future. I hope the Roadrunners can kind of use it to kind of channel themselves. I'd love to see them go on a run. I really would. With all the heartbreak that the fans are going through, giving them something nice to cheer for, to really put their energy into, and see the players kind of respond and be like, we're not going to adhere to any of the nonsense off the ice. We're just going to stick to what we know. I feel like it'd be a great story. I would love to see it. Please, 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 Tucson. I'm begging you. There's a lot of good teams out there in the Pacific, but there's only one that's got my heart right now, and that's the Roadrunners. As they say in the South, meet meet.
Yeah, no, that's what Roadrunner says. He says meet meet.
That's right. Well, the Roadrunners are in the South.
I guess my thing is please, please, please do not change the name from Coyotes, because it doesn't make sense anymore for it to be the Coyotes and the Roadrunners, because it's a cute reference.
Yeah, it's fantastic symmetry, and the rest of the league needs to understand kind of how that works instead of doing like New York Islanders, Bridgeport Islanders, and stuff like that. But unfortunately, they are going to change the name. They might just be the Utah hockey team next year, from what I've been reading. So,
the Coyotes. I'm gonna lobby. How much money will it take me to pay Ryan Smith to keep the name Coyotes?
I think that they're keeping they're doing like the Winnipeg or the Cleveland Browns thing, where it's like, we're going to like take that history away until they're waiting for the expansion to come back, and then they're like, okay, Coyotes are back.
Nah,
it's a different franchise, but they're gonna keep the name, and which is ironic because that's what they did for Winnipeg when they moved.
No, I don't think after that fiasco we're gonna see the Coyotes ever again. I mean, honestly, we're still lobbying for 3 separate professional hockey teams named the Arrows in Houston. But like,
I'd love to see the return of the Arrows. I'd love to see the Rampage come back. There's a lot of defunct AHL franchises. I don't want to add the Roadrunners to it. I really don't.
I know.
Sorry, Dee. I was going through a player's elite prospects. Actually, Taylor Fadon, I was going through his elite prospects. He played for I think it was the Oklahoma City Barons.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What a squad.
The years like right when the IHL and the AHL merged, there was just some wild teams that they kept from the IHL.
Wild West.
They just did not survive the merge for too long, and it's one of those things where you're like, I just kind of want it to happen again. Mm-hmm. You know, like when the WHA and the NHL were like so at odds because there was like a minimum draft age, and hockey players were like, but I deserve to be paid now. So they were like, you know what? I got oil money, WHA. And then Wayne Gretzky actually wasn't drafted by the NHL because he was drafted into the WHA.
I would love for just one weekend where the AHL returns to defunct cities and everything, and it's just like, let's bring the fans back in for like a weekend of games. Everyone wears throwback jerseys.
I have one.
The what?
I have an Arrow sweater. It's got
exactly. Like that's what I'm saying. We need to make that happen, and just to say like, hey, we're not, your history still means something to this league, and we're not forgetting about these fans. And that way,
yeah, like the Iowa Wild could come back home.
They just need to go back to Houston. Period.
Where they were born.
Exactly.
And come see their parents, because they don't write and they never call. All right, I'm not sure if they've eaten lately. I think they're dating somebody. Met a nice girl in college, but you know what? I haven't heard from them since like 3 Christmases ago. I really couldn't tell you. And you know what? I have failed as a mom.
I think you broke Sam.
You usually do.
I didn't realize that you had the Jersey mom in you, but.
Oh, I'm Jewish. We forget that I'm a Yenta. It comes naturally. It's a part of my DNA, honestly.
Oh, I have a lot of conflicting thoughts as a Italian American myself. I was like, this just should not be happening, but it.
My district manager, who is 100% Italian, is very often quoted as saying that D is more Italian than I am. So that's
I didn't realize you had it in you, but
oh, hair in my mouth. Anyway, well, I just looked at his EP again. He played for Oklahoma City Barons, and he also played for the Worcester Sharks.
oh yeah, that's another one.
Who I believe are now the Worcester Railers in the ECHL. I could be wrong.
They might have taken them and moved them to San Jose and made them the CUDA. But I'm just learning actually as I looked up Oklahoma City that Tucson wasn't even the first Roadrunner squad in the AHL. They had the Toronto Roadrunners, then they had the Edmonton Roadrunners before they're like, okay, let's bring them to Oklahoma City, and now they're the Bakersfield Condors. But I didn't realize all this time, which is really odd because it does fit like Coyotes, Roadrunners. You know, it's a perfect fit. I can't believe that there's no like Bunnies and Elmer Fuds. It's just a match made in heaven.
Well, you've got the Montreal Canadiens and the first ever 50 goal scorer who happened to play his entire career for them. They were named after Maurice Richard, the Rocket.
That's right. I knew that, right? I had to have known that.
That's why they wear the 9 on the sleeves.
Okay. That makes sense. I had to have known it. I refuse to believe that that's the first time I'm learning that. I'm sure when I was in Laval, I was like, oh, hey, Rocket, like the Rocket. Oh, okay, it makes sense.
I mentioned that multiple times as well.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and assume that's just like the 12th time I've heard it, and that's why I'm just like, yeah, you know, that's it. Oh, geez, man, it's been a week. It really has.
Speaking of Rocket, I have a hot take about them. Do y'all want to hear it?
Yes.
All right. I think the Rocket need to miss the playoffs for 2 to 3 years.
We were talking about that earlier. What is your reasoning behind this?
Okay, so the Rocket keep lucking their way into the playoffs, right? Yeah, they had playoffs, like, they're not necessarily made the playoffs because COVID season shut everything down or whatever, but they won the North, blah, 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 whatever. But they keep lucking their way into the postseason. If they continue doing that and just kind of making it to the playoffs without being a contender, that's how you get stuck in those ruts where you don't realize something's really wrong.
It sounds like you're talking about the 21 Montreal Canadiens.
It's an organizational issue.
Like, they made the finals. Clearly, they're doing something right, right?
No, everything's wrong, actually. Like last night, that the Rocket are built so weird. They rely on like such young players, and even though those players are technically considered veterans, like of the AHL, because they've played for like X number of years in the AHL, they're still developing players. And then like the veterans they do have don't stay because they get called up to the Canadiens, and all of like the actual like super talented players get called up to the Canadiens. They don't build a team that's like, yes, these players are developing, but also the rest of this AHL team is AHLers, and like they're really good at it, and we're going to develop some winning culture into our players. But they don't. They just keep making it into the playoffs and not doing anything with it because they are beaten and bruised because they rely on that to win their games. And they need to lose. They need to not make the playoffs for 2 or 3 seasons to really kind of be like, all right, well, what happened? It's not like Sly is still in charge of the team. Rest in peace. That was dark times for the Montreal Canadiens farm team. Like, it's not like that's happening anymore. So we have good, like, we're drafting well, we have different management. Like, let's take a look at the Rockets, see why they're not performing, and then go from there. But if they keep accidentally like skiddly-dooting themselves into the playoffs, like down to the wire, then that's not going to happen, and they're going to continue to just stay a playoff team without being a contender. And I think that is the mindset that the Canadians need to work on in the farm team, in the development team, for the rebuild. I think the AHL needs to reflect the mindset that they want to instill in their players for the rebuild. And the mindset is a winning culture and contention, not just making it there.
Before I address your point, can you define for me the verb skiddly-dooting?
Yeah, it's when, like the Grinch is sneaking through somebody's house. He's skiddly-dooting.
Okay. All right. I needed a clarification.
Like
Webster's definition of that.
Yeah, tiptoes, high knees, arched back, T-Rex hands, skiddly-doo.
I like the demonstration as well. That really helps set the mental image of what I'm expecting from the Rocket here. But I think you raise a very good point, especially when you're looking at how to development and long term. What is much as I understand this whole playoff format with get as many of your teams in playing as important games as possible. 3 games at most isn't year after year is kind of not going to.
What's it doing? What's it doing for those teams?
Right.
It's not doing anything for development.
It's just a longer regular season at that point. Like, you're not getting into the nitty gritty, fighting through exhaustion and fighting through like the same team for 7 games, and it's frustrating, and you have to learn how to play through those tempers. Like, it's not doing anything to develop the players, just kind of making it to the first round. I think every team needs to stop and look, and it's like, okay, are we making it to the playoffs, or are we contenders? And the Rocket are just making it to the playoffs. They are not contenders.
It's kind of like how you're looking at, at the Atlantic Division, because obviously that's the division I'm in, so it's the division I'm most familiar with. You're looking at Lehigh like, okay, they're going to make it to the first round, but they're likely not going to get past the first round.
I know, and we like to say make it to the playoffs and anything can happen. Like, the playoffs are so unpredictable and you never know what's going to happen and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, no, like, I know what's going to happen. Let's say the Rocket take the Senators' spot right now. They're going up against the Marlies, who have some kind of, like, goal support for their goaltenders. They're not getting outscored 7-1. Like, I know exactly what's going to happen. The Rocket are going to hit and fight their way through. Maybe they make it through those first 3 games, and then they have to go fight Syracuse. No, I know what's going to happen, and that's not good for development to have to be scratching and fighting and clawing tooth and nail out of the first round. It's demoralizing, and it's not developing your players just to get into the playoffs. Sure, they're supposed to be proud of themselves for making the playoffs. They're hockey players. Anything short of winning it all is not enough. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Oh, I'm a hockey player.
Oh. I used to be one too back in the day until about 2.5 months ago.
Your ankle in your old age.
Yeah.
I was actually just saying to Drew the other day, they should just do it how the NHL and the ECHL does it. 4 rounds, 7 games.
Yeah. It's
7 if needed.
Yeah, it's so convoluted and it makes no sense. And I get it. The Pacific has 10 teams and it's not fair and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that we can put a couple of these teams in the Central. Like, make it, 8 or whatever teams. Like, but also, not everybody has to make the playoffs. It feels like a participation trophy just because these are young players and this is a development league. It feels like, all right, well, you did almost enough.
Do you realize how much the Wolves would hate it if they had to travel to Colorado for a weekend series? Like, do you realize the travel expenses and all of that? They would despise it.
Okay, well that sucks. They don't have an NHL affiliate, so that seems like it's a them problem. No, I'm kidding. But like I get that the Pacific has 10 teams. The Pacific doesn't need 10 teams. And maybe if we spaced all of our teams out and not 9,000 of them were in California, we wouldn't have this problem.
No, for facts though, when I first started like really getting into AHL and covering it and loving it, I thought Ontario was in Canada.
Nope, that one's in.
You're not the only one who thought that. I can promise you that.
That one's the one in California. It's not the whole province of Ontario. Yeah, it's what, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them.
It's the California division. Let's be real here.
So why do all of those? There's only 3 teams in California, so why do they all have to be in California?
Ask Edmonton. They're the really odd one because there used to be Stockton too, right? And that nightmare landscape that was going on there. And Calgary actually had the common sense to was like, okay, we'll scoop them up and we'll put them in our barn. Edmonton's like, no, we're just gonna keep it in Bakersfield. It's fine.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Maybe, I don't know, like, spread out your teams a little bit better and, like, maybe not make all of them in California. Then the Pacific Division wouldn't have 10 teams and we wouldn't have to hand out participation trophy first rounds. Sorry.
Why isn't there a team in Portland? I had never understood that.
Why is Seattle's team not in just Washington State?
Can you imagine, like, the Rainier Fog would be an awesome team.
Yeah.
I do have to say, your technology is very much cooperating with you today. I'm not used to this.
What did you do?
I'm on my iPad. And I lit a candle. I don't know. I was hoping
I saw the candle.
It would be like a sacrifice to the that's really hot, actually. To the technology gods. And
I like it. We're keeping Zach Power's spirit alive through D.
Really hot. It's glass.
Of course.
Wait, one of my things is out. Where did I put my? Oh, unlike Zach Power, I know how to light a candle.
And she's using the right lighter.
To the technology gods, and my laptop is currently open to the internet. And I'm streaming on.
Are we going to go into that one, or are we just going to leave it at the end? Okay. I was worried for a second.
Actually, just the entire internet is
right. I'm like, is she just like I'm getting flashbacks to like what when they're in the Matrix, when they're like watching what's happening in the Matrix, but it's just like text scroll, and they're like, Agent Smith's going after him, and that's what I'm imagining when I'm just like, I just got the internet on my computer. Like,
yeah, it's open to the internet, but that's running off of my phone, and this is running off of the real internet. And interestingly enough, it's been storming here basically all day. It's been gross, and weirdly, the internet's still working. So,
props to technology for coming through for you. I love to see it. Well, we got one more weekend before playoffs. What's playoffs? So, like, what's like sticking out to you? What do you guys, other than like the Laval and Belleville series, obviously has like the most implication, but like, what's the one that like you really like? I love the idea of Texas and Manitoba having 2 extra games to absolutely beat each other up, and like that's me. But I want to know what you guys like. What are you getting out of this weekend?
I'm actually gonna go make an appearance at Lehigh. I know. Shocker there. But I'm gonna obviously go there, watch them play the Pens, and secretly on the inside cheer for the Pens so I don't get decimated in that arena. And I'm just gonna go and watch Charlotte be Charlotte on Sunday there. So I'm gonna watch 2 in-person games, and then I have a playoff series going on in the coast. So, but Lehigh's the team to watch right now in the Atlantic because they're gonna clinch Probably Friday night.
I'm excited to see the seeding races. Like, that's always, like, when it gets down to the nitty gritty and it's like, who gets home ice advantage? That's when I start, like
That's
can upset somebody, because, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how close you were when you clinched the playoffs. What matters is who finished with the better record and all of that, and who gets home ice advantage, especially when you're tied for first place in your division, and, like, seeding could be upset by third place, and third place could become first place. I'm so excited for the seeding race.
So just like the North, everything going on in the North. What? See, this is what I'm talking about. What was that?
I don't know. What did I do that looked
I
like
think you look like you frowned and your camera was like, yep, that's a thumbs down.
I've been struggling with this for like 2 months. Like,
I mean,
really bad.
Charlotte and Wilkes-Barre are definitely going to be fighting for seeding this weekend, so that's going to be
Everywhere.
interesting to watch.
Yeah, like middle of the pack. Like, sure, we've clinched. Sure, we've been in this whole time, but maybe like you're Tucson and Ontario, and you both sitting at 89 points, and it's like, okay, so y'all have games. Who earns more points and who gets to move up in table standings?
Yeah, Colorado going in there against Ontario in the weekend. Like, I don't think they can catch Ontario, but they can certainly, like, you're not getting that 2 spot. Nope, you're sitting down at 3. And I'm gonna make you play. Who would that be? Bakersfield. Well,
Yeah, they could definitely at least steal like at least a point from them. You know, like they can make it difficult.
You want the easier
like,
matchup, and nope.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just like all of the, I love watching teams play spoiler for all of the seeding.
I love like the crab bucket mentality of like, oh, you think you're getting up there? Nope. And they just
So,
make
like,
them
I want San Jose and San Diego to go in and have so much fun this weekend and just like ruin people's lives. Like, that would be just like so much fun to me that they're just like, ha.
Do you think San Jose even shows up to Tucson this weekend? They might just be like, you know what? We already got our tea time set. We're going to take an extra rain day, and we're going to give you that win.
They do.
D, you were just reminding me of that mom that has like a kid on a soccer team, and they're like the worst kid on the team. And they're like, you know what, honey, just go out there and have fun.
Have so much fun. They're not going to win a championship this year, but that's okay because my little Joey and my little Diego are going to have the greatest year, and they had so much fun. Thank you. I will be paying these league dues again next year so they can ruin your lives.
No, if my kid's the worst kid on the team, he's not playing anymore. You get one chance.
Drew's the dad that has like the goalie on the team that can't make any stops, and it's just like, you know what? You're wasting my time, my money. You're wasting your time playing hockey.
I'm the quintessential Rinaldi dad that's in the corner of the rink yelling and banging on the glass at his kid.
No, let me play devil's advocate here though. But like, if your kid wants to be a hockey goalie and they suck, you should probably teach them how to be a defenseman instead, because like goalie equipment's not cheap.
It's expensive. That's really expensive.
Ask me how I know.
That is probably every hockey parent's worst nightmare is, Daddy, I want to play goalie.
I want to be a goalie. Oh, but joke's on you because I'm actually left-handed, so I'd like to catch with my right hand. Ask my parents.
Oh, no. You have to go through and, like, do an inception thing where you have to plant the idea of, like, no, you are going to be a forward or a defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
And because I couldn't do it. I could never, unless I don't know. I would just be a terrible parent. That's really what it boils down to.
You think Connor Bedard ever said to his parents, hey, I want to be a goalie? No, son, you're going to be a sniper. You're going to be a forward.
Well, because, I mean, he was probably 3'9" when the time he was 12 years old, and they realized he was too small to be a goalie. So,
well, and to be fair, like, kids tend to play like a whole bunch of different positions.
That's true.
Like, you know, you're not necessarily using your own equipment, but it's like, you know what, I think I'd like to play in the net. This equipment kind of fits me. I'm going to go see if I like that. And then they turn into Carey freaking Price. So, like, Because Kerry he was a skater for a while, and then one day he decided he wanted to be a goalie, and he was one of the best goalies of his generation.
Before I get crucified for saying this and not giving this man his appropriate title, U.S. Olympian Pat Nagel was actually a forward before he became a goalie.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it just happens where you're just like, meh, I'll do it. And then you need a goalie, I'll do it. And you're like really good at it. And then other times it's like, I want to be a goalie, I think. And then like Goldberg in the Mighty Ducks. That's the second Mighty Ducks reference I have. Like Goldberg tied to the net and forced to do it. And you're scared of pucks.
And then he wasn't. And then he became
Goldberg!
Absolute beauty. We love goalies on this show.
We have Julie the Cat Gaffney, also from the Mighty Ducks. My mom was a goalie because she watched Manon Rhéaume play like 2 preseason games.
I love Manon Rhéaume. I'm so sad that she's not involved in the youth hockey scene here in Detroit anymore, but she was awesome for the girls at Little Caesars, and I loved everything that she did, and she's just an absolute icon. Having her locally was like the greatest thing ever, I swear.
Anyway, so you can see how walking up to my parents and saying I would like to be a goalie wasn't actually that hard of a sell.
I'm just like, as we were talking about this, I'm just under the realization that I'm just going to be a terrible hockey parent if that ever happens. But anyway, I think we're wrapped up on the show. Do you guys have anything more to add other than ploffs?
Ploffs.
Depends.
Anything can happen.
Allegedly, but
anything can happen.
Let's see Laval. Anyway, I'm Andrew. That's Sam. That's Dee.
No, I'm Mr.
And
I'm also in timeout.
Yeah, well, I was about to ask, what's your homework assignment this weekend?
Watch Pirates of the Caribbean.
But only the first 3.
At least the first one. If you want to watch, you're going to want to watch the next 2, so you go ahead and do that. But stop after 3. Anyway, you understand the assignment, and we'll check in next week to see if Sam passes our exam.
Sorry, I can't do that anymore.